an interview with mediator trainer Dr. Barbara Sunderland Manousso. That is our topic for today. Welcome to the Lawyers and Mediators International Show and Podcast by InstantMediations.com, where we discuss law and conflict resolution topics to educate both professionals and everyday people. Catch regular episodes on YouTube, the Instant Mediations app, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Just remember, nothing in these episodes constitutes legal advice, so be sure to talk to a lawyer, as cases are fact dependent. Hi, everyone. This is Mac Pierre Louis, attorney, mediator, arbitrator, working throughout Florida and Texas.
And Natalia Ołowska-Czajka of InstantMediations.com, advocate, mediator, and arbitrator from Warsaw, Poland.
And I'm Dr. Barbara Sunderland Manousso in Houston and Rhode Island.
All right, guys, it is our pleasure to have a show where we do a special guest interview with a dear friend and colleague, mediator trainer, all around great lady who has personally affected my life by being my mediator trainer some years ago. And so I wanted to just start off by sharing a little bit of Dr. Manousso's biography, and then we'll get into the conversation with her. Since 1993, Dr. Barbara Sunderland Manousso has been a Texas credentialed distinguished mediator and the CEO of Manousso Mediation and Arbitration LLC. She has received countless awards and organizational affiliations and has trained thousands of mediators and arbitrators, including me. She has mediated thousands of civil and family law cases and has presented papers, countless papers on mediation dynamics, theory, ethics, marketing, and skills nationally and internationally. Since 2005, Dr. Manousso has been an adjunct professor at the University of St. Thomas, where I went to school, teaching global conflict management to graduate and undergraduate students, many of whom will become Foreign Service officers. She's a graduate of Brown University, where she got her BA, the University of Texas School of Public Health, where she got her MPH, and Nova Southeastern University, where she got her PhD. Dr. Manousso has been awarded lots of accolades. Two of the ones I'll mention were by the Houston Business Journal and the Texas Association of Mediators. Back in 2019, she was awarded the Susan Adams Award as the top mediator. And back in 2018, she was awarded the Woman Who Means Business in Professional Services by Houston Business Journal. Now, all of those accolades are one thing, but my personal accolade is the impact that she's had on me by being a mentor over the years, especially when she took the time to write the foreword to an ebook that Natalia and I co-wrote on how to mediate online. This was during the start of the pandemic. So, Dr. Manousso, we thank you a lot for your graciousness in giving your time and your expertise to that project. It helped a lot of people, especially at the beginning of COVID, when a lot of mediators were trying to get started to mediate with their clients during the lockdowns. So I guess let's get right into it. Wanted you to, just say a couple little things about yourself, especially this whole new thing about Rhode Island. And then I want to share your website with folks so that they can know how to contact you. Please, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. I thank you for inviting me to talk today. I can never say too much about mediation. I love to be uh, one of the um, supporters and to keep people informed of what expectations in mediation should be expected and how the process can be so beneficial and cost effective for people. So I'm delighted that you've given me this opportunity.
Awesome. So I've actually updated your website right under your name. So folks who are watching can go to manuso.us if they want to follow up with you and learn anything else. And I'll actually screen share that website right now. Now, if you are listening to the podcast of this recording, then you can head over to YouTube, the Lawyers and Mediators channel, Just go to YouTube and type that in, or you can also go to its new home, lawyersandmediators.org. And one thing I'll mention on this website is an interview we did with you back on YouTube. Oh, going on what, almost 2 years ago now. It's, oh, maybe that
More than that, I
exaggeration.
think.
Yeah, yeah, but everything is there, jam packed with information for folks. Um, but let Natalia, chime in here on anything else that you would like to visit with Dr. Manousso on before we kind of hit on our topic for today.
Once again, big thank you for being with us today, and a great honor and pleasure. And knowing that when the pandemic hit, the mediation was facing totally new challenges, and you adapted everything, your practice, your training, your attitude towards this new approach. Please tell us, as a first starting point, what changes did this overwhelming crisis, global crisis of the pandemic brought to mediation?
Well, thank you for asking that. It was quite a new work in progress. Uh, the opportunity to be in the same room with the clients mediating is very important for the energy and for their familiarity with each other, facing each other, which is a very large part of the mediation process. So I, as you might know, because MacArthur, I was always against doing too much online. I do a lot of elder and adult care mediation and family mediation outside of divorce and child custody. So I've used the tools of online as needed because the families are never all in one place. And also, I do a lot of international and federal contracts that a lot of the participants sometimes are not, again, able to get into one place or space. So I had used it as I needed to, but not my preference. So now it wasn't a choice. I'm autoimmune compromised, so is my husband, and I was not going to meet. And of course, with the pandemic, it was recommended that nobody meet with anyone in person. So it was facing a new challenge, and with a little bit of push and shove, there was a mountain to climb, and how to address it without losing the quality of either a training experience or the actual mediation experience.
Yes, can you speak a little bit about the training experience? When I was training with you some years back, this was out in the loop within Houston.
Mhm.
It was it was a couple days long. It was in person. I paid my money, and we went through the experience. How has that typical scenario that you had been doing for many, many years, how has that changed because of the pandemic and the lockdowns?
Well, we were using hotels, and we would do 10-hour days for training because the traffic in Houston is horrible. So it would take people so long to get to the training and then to leave. So we would bring them in early and let them enjoy the whole day and maximize their timeline. So our 40-hour, which is our basic training, which is pretty much the gold standard around the world, we would do it in 4 10-hour days. When we tried to do 10 hours online, that was too much for people. That people just get Zoom fatigue. They're lost. Even though we're not doing webinars, we're doing live programs, interactive. But it was still, you'd think, with your slippers on and your pajama bottoms and your fluffy your coffee cup and your fluffy chair, it would be more comfortable. But really isn't always that way. But what ended up finding to be very extremely beneficial for the online process, our classes bring in students from around the world. And that has enriched our trainings so much. They're from both coasts. or if you not even coast, because we are beyond the coast of America. And my last class, we had Bahrain, we had Greece, I had Venezuela, we had Japan, we and another class, Colombia. They it makes it very, very rich when people come from around the world, and it inspires those who are local, online, to I think feel special that you have a visitor in the house in a sense. So it has enhanced our program, and our classes have more than doubled in size.
So I can see that one of the benefits of the pandemics was that the mediation training needed to get shorter in terms of the number of hours per day, but they could extend in number and nevertheless reach very directly and individually to all the participants. And this is actually also what mediation is about, to have everybody treated individually with due respect. And the online environment put us into a totally new situation with addressing everything: eye contact, the expression of the body language that can no longer be so well read from participants. However, now we are returning back to the models either of in-person mediation or the hybrid mediation, where some of the participants are there physically in person and some still appear on the screen. What is your experience with the hybrid mediation? What would you say would be the bad and the good sides of this model?
Well, thank you. One of the benefits that we have found, and we are going to nurture, is that we've shortened, as I mentioned, are shortened the length of the day, and we're able to spread it out over more days. So instead of people having back to back days of training, we can do a few days on one week, give them a weekend, give them an opportunity to review some of the material, to think about it, to absorb it, to not feel overloaded, um, like where they can't have an opportunity to think through it, and to be able to come back later and ask more qualified questions. And the same thing in mediation. I think when you're working with people in person, they feel that they have to come to a conclusion right at that moment. There has to be a resolution or a solution. And it's very hard when you're angry. I don't know about you, but when I'm angry, I can't think straight. I can't think what I want to do. Even if I have a little time, maybe in a caucus, and then I come back to a group, if I'm looking at the person that I'm so angry with, I have like a tape in my head that I keep thinking of everything that's happened that brought me to that conflict, and probably 10 or 20 years before I even met them, that could have contributed to conflict. And it's very hard, but at 3 o'clock in the morning, I am brilliant. When I'm in bed and I have a chance to work my way through the thought process again. And so, this is a benefit, I think, of our training as well as our mediation. It gives the participants a chance to think through what their needs are, what is realistic, where do they need to be in the process. And so there's not a race to the end. And that's rude to people when they're in a conflict and there's money at stake. So if they're in a mediation or if they're taking a training, everybody learns a little differently. Everybody has a different they have different things going on in their lives and in their heads, and there's a different clarity that they might need. So I see a hybrid approach being very realistic, and using the online approach, making it more palatable by feeding it in smaller bites, but giving people the opportunity to express it and to regurgitate it at their own pace a little bit more. And I think that's been a strength of whether it's an online program or as we move forward with a hybrid program. And as we move forward, I do see a hybrid program helping people with role plays in person versus trying to do some of the role plays and some of the conversations just online. So,
Thank you. What are your takeaways or conclusions after these last couple years? Because in the beginning, everybody was kind of in shock with the lockdowns and then the Zoom boom that affected all of us, and then we all went online, and then mediation got affected. But now, all these months later, standing here and looking back, what are your, I guess, takeaways? Just after having done this for so many years as a trainer and as a mediator, what do you conclude now? What do you say about what we've all experienced?
well, it was totally unexpected. And as you mentioned earlier, my master's is in public health.
Mhm.
And so I have a lot of connection. I do a lot of mediation in the medical community too, and arbitration. And I'm well connected to that area. And I do see um, some people never took this seriously. And I hope anybody listening has been vaccinated, do believe science. And I get very angry when people don't feel that they need to get vaccinated. And when you are meeting with people, I think the handshake, I don't think is going to be part of the repertoire anymore. I know when I go back to meeting with people, and I've had booster even, so we've had our 3 shots, but I'm still wearing masks when I'm in public and I'm in a store. If I'm in an elevator, especially, you are very vulnerable to germs in an elevator. And I would still use my mask going in. And I think it's going to still impact us for another year. And if you're intelligent, you will let it impact you. So you will be careful for a more period of time. And of course, if you're doing a divorce, the people probably are in the same home. So that's a little bit different scenario. But keeping people at a safer distance. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the handshake for me is gone. I have no interest in shaking people's hand anymore. And as a woman who's been in business for over 50 years, giving away my age, I'm 39 going forward, but men never shook women's hands back in the day when I was in business and started in business. So I find it kind of interesting that I'm going retro, that they didn't want to shake my hand. Now I don't want to shake their hand. And I am finding that the idea of the Asian putting the hands up in
Mm.
front in a respectful manner and nodding to people, looking them straight in the eye. So you're still reading their eyes, as we tell people in mediation or even in our trainings when people would come into the room. If you remember, I always shook your hand when you came in and I shook your hand when you left the training. So now it's still looking them in the eye. So that's going to be a big change. And I think people should be respectful and responsible about that. That's showing respect for your clients and for the people that you're serving.
And I find it absolutely interesting and thrilling what you are now saying about handshaking. I come from a country, Poland, where men used to kiss women's hands. So wearing masks does not really allow that. So when I was starting my time in business, or when I had my mentor being in my advocacy practice, my patron used to kiss my hand at any time when we met, and that was, of course, very humbling to me. And so soon I learned that I need to give my hand straight, to be rather shaken, not
Hmm.
kissed this way, even
Hmm.
though quite a lot of men would say that that was showing respect to a woman, because in order to kiss women's hands, and you need to be careful about it, you need to bend. So that
Hmm.
gives really, this bend gives you respect. But
Yes.
back to what is exactly bending should be this thing. So nodding with your, acknowledging with
Yes,
your
acknowledgement.
Yes, that's absolutely vital. And that can happen both in the online and in the physical environment. However, I wanted to ask you your experience. And now that we've been for more than a year in that, a year and a half practically, and you do both training and mediation, what sort of new skills should the mediator have? Should the mediator be trained with because of what pandemic brought to the mediation environment?
That's an excellent question. And I think, as I alluded to before, I think showing more respect for giving people more space and time and not feeling because you are in a, people have come in at a certain time that you need to finish within a 4 hour or an 8 hour time lot. So I think giving people that opportunity to come back if they need to, or be off screen so that they have a chance to think through what's their best solution, what really is important to them. And if they're more relaxed, as they can relax with a little bit more time and a little bit more space, whether it's in person or whether it's online. And online lends itself to that a little bit more because you can meet for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours online, and it's not as cost demanding for time or money on the mediator or on the clients. So you feel more flexible in saying, we're going to meet until 3 o'clock and then we can reconvene another time. So, again, that gives them that chance to think through what their needs might be. And they will have had that opportunity to be in the experience so that they can maybe calm down a little bit. When people go into a new experience for the first time, whether it's a mediation, a courtroom, a training, I think people are tense. It's a new it's a new event for them. And so even people who are very aggressive and enjoy people around have a certain level of tension that is built in. So it reduces the tension level if people experience a little bit, and then they can come back reinforced, reinvented, and ready for a resolution. If it's a mediation, and if it's a training, the same thing. That we give people an assignment, again, they have a weekend and then they'll come back for a couple more days to do a couple more days of the training. So that flexibility of time, respect for health care, respect for the clients, um, I think it adds a lot more strength to the mediation process. When you hear mediators that take their clients and only throw them in caucus so they never meet each other, and the mediator thinks they're so strong doing mediated settlement instead of real mediation, that is disrespectful. And when you have the opportunity to keep your parties together and not listening to the nonsense, well, my parties can't be together because they're in conflict with, of course they're in conflict. They wouldn't be there to start with, but you can keep them on a screen. They can't shoot each other on a screen. And so this is an opportunity that you're removing some of the barriers where people say, oh, but they're in conflict. Well, you're on a screen and you can use a small period of time. You can refresh yourself a little easier. You can reconvene another day without a lot of cost and mental anguish involved with it. And so I think it enhances the mediation process. It's best, I think, when people have that opportunity to meet in person. It's nice. But I think the online mediation is here to stay. And I know for training, it is here to stay because it just has been such an advantage. My lecturers, I'm bringing in my lecturers from around the country now. And I know you know Natalie Armstrong
Yep.
Motrin. Well, she and I, we go back 25 years. And she is, so we bring her in from Normandy, France on a regular basis to come speak. And she's outstanding. And other people from California and here. So I have such flexibility now, bringing in my very best speakers, because we always have a variety of speakers in the mediation training. So I think it's here to stay, and I do salute the hybrid. Now, people internationally, they're not going to fly in for one evening. I get that, but the people that are local could have that opportunity to meet in person. And I've also set up some international um, people now. We've set up a group in Ecuador and a group in um, Greece to be available to do some on site programs and role plays so that people are a little bit closer to a hybrid opportunity.
Well, thank you for that. Well said. We're about to close and say our goodbyes. Um, but could you briefly tell us what's going on in Rhode Island?
Well, I've just opened an East Coast office in Newport, Rhode Island, where the cup races. So I found a beautiful spot that I can see sailboats. However, I have been part of the New England Association for Conflict Resolution for 25, 30 years. And quite a few of our students come from that market. So, again, to address the hybrid market, it was an opportunity to do the online and hybrid work. And we're 2.5 hours from New York, and we're 40 minutes from Boston, and those are very big hubs of our work. So, and working closely with Brown University as well. So we're going to be, and I'm expanding, as I said, we've expanded into Greece and into Venezuela. Not Venezuela. I just said it and I forgot the name.
Ecuador.
Yes, thank you. So it's a new day and it's an exciting time, and I think we all need to grab that gold ring and keep the business fresh, but keep in mind that this is serving the clients. It's about them. It's not about us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, Dr. Barbara Sunderland Manousso, thank you again for all the impact you've had in our lives and wishing you the best going forward. And we will talk to you again.
I'll look
It
forward to
was
it.
a
Thank you.
pleasure, and thank you for all your input and contribution. Very highly appreciated.
Thank you very much.